Hi guys, today we are going to learn about reproduction in animals. Chiding, chiding. There is a two type of reproductions. First one is sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction means plants that reproduce sexually have male and female reproductive parts. This type of reproduction beginning from the fusion of male and female gametes is called sexual reproduction. Male reproductive organs. The male reproductive organs include a pair of testes, singular testes, uh, pair of testes. In singular form, we call this is testes. Two sperm ducts and a penis. The testes produce a male gametes called sperms. Though sperms are very small in size, each has a head, middle piece and a tail. Okay. So sperm has a head, middle piece and a tail. When it comes to the female reproductive parts, we have a pair of ovaries and also oviducts. Oviducts is also called as fallopian tubes and the uterus. So these are female reproductive parts. And female gametes called ova, eggs. In human beings, a single matured egg is released into the oviduct by one of the ovaries every month. In females, a single matured egg is released into the oviduct by one of the ovaries every month. Okay, every month one ovary will release one egg. Next month another ovary will release another egg. By that kind of they change their roles and take time. Fertilization. Fertilization is the reproduction of fusion of sperm and ovum called fertilization. One of the sperms may fuse with the egg. Such fusion of the egg and the sperm is called fertilization. The nuclei of the sperm and the egg fuse to form a single nucleus. This results in the formation of a fertilized egg or zygote. Fertilization. Fertilization. Fertilization, which takes place inside the female body, is called internal fertilization. Internal fertilization occurs in many animals, including humans, cows, dogs, and hens. Fertilization, which takes place inside the female body, is called internal fertilization. For example, internal fertilization occurs in many animals, including humans, internal fertilization, cows, dogs, and hens. Have you heard of test tube babies? In such cases, doctors collect freshly released egg and sperms and keep them together for a few hours for in vitro fertilization or in vitro fertilization, that is fertilization outside the body. In case fertilization occurs, the zygote is allowed to develop for about a week and then it is placed in the mother's uterus. A complete development takes place in the uterus and the baby is born like any other baby. Babies born through this technique is called test tube babies. So we know that in vitro fertilization. In vitro fertilization, what doctors do? They collect freshly released egg from the female and also sperms from the male. They keep them together for a few hours in the in vitro fertilization facility. There is a facility, IVF facility we call this as that. This facility is outside the human body. Fertilization occurs outside the human body. Since this complete development of the uterus and the baby takes place through this technique, this is called a test tube baby. So, the term is actually misleading because babies cannot grow in test tube, but being manufactured, being fertilized in a lab, IVF lab, we call this as a test tube baby. Okay. After the fertilization, zygote is allowed to develop about a week. After a week, zygote is then placed into the mother's uterus. Okay. Many animals fertilization takes place outside the body of a female. In these animals, fertilization takes place in water. Visit some ponds or slow flowing streams during spring or rainy season. Look out for clusters of frogs' eggs floating in water. As the eggs are laid, the male deposits sperm over them. Each sperm swims randomly in water. If you look at the animals, for example, eggs of this frog, what the frogs will do? Frogs will lay their eggs in the waters. After that, each sperm swims randomly in water with the help of its long tail. The sperms come in contact with the egg. So female frogs lay their eggs in the water, and male deposit male frogs deposit their sperms over the frog eggs. So when each sperm swims randomly in water with the help of its long tail, the sperms come in contact with egg. This results in fertilization. This type of fertilization, in which the fusion of a male and female gametes takes place outside the body of a female, is called external fertilization. It is very common in adequate animals such as fish and starfish, etc. This type of fertilization, in which the fusion of a male and female gametes takes place outside the body of a female, is called external fertilization. It is very common in aquatic animals such as fish, starfish, etc. So, in aquatic animals, this kind of external fertilization will take place like frogs. External fertilization means fusion of male and female gametes takes place outside the body of a female. This is called external fertilization. It is very common in aquatic animals such as fish and starfish. Okay. Next, development of embryo. The cells then begin to form groups that develop into different tissues and organs of the body. This developing structure is termed as embryo. What happens after fertilization? After fertilization, cells begin to develop and begin to regenerate, regrowth, and devise between them. So it will grow bigger and bigger. After that, they begin to form groups that develop into different tissues and also organs of the body. This developing structure is termed as embryo. So, the embryo usually gets embedded in the wall of the uterus for further development. The embryo continues to develop in the uterus. It gradually develops body parts such as hands, legs, head, eyes, ears, etc. The stage of the embryo in which all the body parts can be identified is called a foetus. When the development of the foetus is complete, the mother gives birth to the baby. After the hard shell is formed around the developing embryo, the hen finally lays the egg. The embryo takes about 3 weeks to develop into a chick. You must have seen the hen sitting on the eggs to provide sufficient warmth. Did you know that development of a chick takes place inside the egg shell during this period? Viviparous and oviparous animals. So, we know the zygote formation. Okay. If you look at the picture in figure 9.8, page number 104, class 8th NCERT. Okay, if you look at the picture, there is a picture A, zygote formation and development and embryo from the zygote. So ovulation takes place. Ovulation means releasing the ovary. Releasing the egg from an ovary is called ovulation. And the fertilization is occurred, then it forms the zygote. Zygote after development, it will goes through the fallopian tube for the further process like division occurs. Cell growth will takes place, cell multiplication will takes place, tissues, the organ formation takes place. So it will be embedding embryo. It will become an embedding embryo in the uterus. After that, ball of cells. We have the enlarged ball of cells. We see that. See the embedding of the embryo in the uterus. Uterus, there is embedding embryo. We see the developing embryo into different organs and tissue development, multiplication will take place. Everything. So, embryo continues to develop further in the uterus. It gradually develops baby body parts such as hands, legs, head, eyes, ears, etc. The stage of the embryo in which all the body parts can be identified is called the foetus. We call the foetus when the all body parts are identified and is formed. Then we call that embryo as a foetus. Okay? Foetus in the uterus. So, for example, if we look at the chicks, they have hard shell that is formed around the developing embryo. When the hen finally lays the egg, the embryo takes about 3 weeks to develop into the chicks. You must have seen that hen sitting on the egg to provide sufficient warmth. So sufficient temperature, it will provide sufficient warmth. Do you know that development of the chick takes place inside the eggshell during this period? After the chick is completely developed, it bursts open the eggshell. It will burst open the eggshell. Okay, next. Viviparous and oviparous animals. So animals which gave birth to the young ones, direct young ones, is called the viviparous, and those animals which lay eggs are called oviparous animals. So those which lay eggs like hen, duck, these snakes, birds, they are viviparous animals. But unlike those, there are oviparous animals which gave direct birth to the young ones like dogs, cats, camels, kangaroo. These are oviparous animals. Next, young ones to adults. For example, recall the life cycle of a silkworm. Silkworm, for example, from the egg it will become larva. Larva after development sometime caterpillar, caterpillar to pupa, pupa to adult. So there is a different stages of a frog, same like, for example, there is an egg of a frog, egg becomes fertilized after fertilization, embryo, it will develop into the tadpole. We call, in the frog cycle, we call larva as a tadpole. After that it will become an adult. So eggs, early tadpole and late tadpole, and then it will become an adult frog. The transformation of larva into an adult through drastic changes is called metamorphosis. Transformation of larva into the adult through drastic changes is called metamorphosis. The same we have the budding in hydra. So we learned about the sexual reproduction. Now we goes to the asexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, we have different types: budding in hydra, binary fission in amoeba. These are comes under the asexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, there is no female and male cats. There is no gametes are present. This is altogether a different method. For example, in this type of asexual reproduction, there is only a single parent is involved. That's why we call this as asexual reproduction. Since new individuals develop from the buds in Hydra, this type of asexual reproduction is called budding. These bulges are developing new individuals and they are called buds. Since new individuals develop from the buds in Hydra is called asexual reproduction called budding. These bulges are the developing new individuals and they are called buds. Budding in Hydra takes place. Next, amoeba is a single-celled organism. It begins the process of reproduction by the division of its nucleus into two nuclei. So finally, two amoeba are produced from one parent amoeba. If we take the amoeba has one nucleus. After this, nucleus division will take place. And through the nucleus division, after some time, it will become the two amoebas formed from the parent one amoeba. This is called binary fission in amoeba. The same developing buds in the hydra and the individual bud develop into the another single hydra. So, new individual buds. This is called budding in hydra. Yeah, remember. For example, you know the cloning story of Dolly. It is an animal. It was cloned by Finn Dorset sheep with the Scottish blackface Eve. When the Scottish blackface Eve and Finn Dorset sheep are both cells are exchanged and fused, then a new embryo is formed. After the embryo development, the new individual is formed. It is called Dolly with the intermixing of two characteristics. It is done by the Roslin Institute in Edinburgh. Elon Wilmot. He was the first time he cloned the animal. This is the first mammal to be cloned. This is usually a sheep named as a dolly. First mammal to be cloned. Hi guys, see you later.